Welcome to the Hindu editorial discussion 4th November 2020. Today's topic of discussions are interfaith marriages, part of GS paper 1 society. We are going to see the French society and compare it or just see how the Indian society is plus international relation, academic freedom on education and divestment in fossil fuels, environment, ecology. So, four topics today: interfaith marriages, that is part of society, French society, academic freedom, divestment in fossil fuels, environment, ecology. So, we are going to see an important topic on interfaith marriages, an uncivil proposal. You must have heard about love jihad, wherein which is in news a lot, especially in Uttar Pradesh. The term love jihad, coined by the ruling dispensation. This term is given in the media. It is a lot of this term is spoken about, but there is no legal backing for this term. Even in the parliament, the government was not able to substantiate, nor the government gave any legal backing to this term. But still, it is in news and it is taken up for political purposes. In India, we have uh, various, various types of religion, different types of religions in India, and they are all living very peacefully since ages. We have been known to live with each other and uh, also have good relations with each other. But what is the problem which is happening currently? What is the context of this uncivil proposal? Court verdicts in unrelated cases shouldn't be a clever plan to curb personal freedom to marry. Recent Hyderabad court decision. So, recent court decision, you must understand, given by the Hyderabad, that frowned upon religious conversion solely for the purpose of marriage. They said only for the marriage you can't convert. The astounding proposal by Uttar Pradesh and Haryana to enact a law to curb what they call love jihad reeks a vicious mix of patriarchy and communalism. So, this this concept of love jihad speaks of two things. First is patriarchy, second is communalism, where the people feel that women can't think for themselves. They have been forced or lured into the marriage. And communalism, where always uh, a, a section of the society or a community is seen in the wrong. Earlier this year, Union Home Ministry made it clear that the term is not defined in law while replying a parliamentary question. But still, we see it in media and other places. The flaws in the concept are obvious. There is no legal sanction to self serving and political terms such as love jihad, and there can be no legalization or legislation based on an extra legal concept. The domain of matrimony is occupied by separate laws governing weddings that take place under religious traditions as well as the Special Marriage Act. So, the interfaith marriages take place under the Special Marriages Act, which enables a secular marriage including between couples from different faith. What are the mistakes? Using the term love jihad in a communal sense and speaking about marriage as if they were not matter of personal choice. So these are the problems using these terms love jihad, mostly taken as a communal sense, and it leads to communal polarization. So What is the conclusion? The High Court had declined to intervene on a writ petition seeking police protection for a recently married couple, noting that the bride had converted from Islam to Hinduism. Sometimes we must understand the judges, the courts also take decisions which is not exactly expected from them. They had not given protection to a recently married couple, saying that the bride had converted from Islam to Hinduism only for the purpose of marriage. So you must remember how backward the decision was. It is the choice of the bride, it is choice of the people. The the people they want to marry to, the religion they want to convert to, or the religion they want to follow is the choice of the people. So there is, on one side you have the freedom of speech and expression and the freedom of religion. On the other side you have concepts of love jihad making rounds in the society. It had found such an expedient conversion unacceptable. It is a principle that interfaith couples retain their religious beliefs separately and opt for marriages under the Special Marriages Act. This principle cannot be used to derogate from personal choice or become a ruse to interfere in the individual freedom to forge matrimonial alliances. So, the principle that conversions should not be allowed just for the sake of marriage can't be used saying to interfere into the individual freedom. So this is the first editorial or first article, talks about the love jihads and we have seen on what is the stand of the government, what is the stand of the court, and what the recent judgment in the court says. The second is a fragile French Republic. Now in France we have seen many situations or many things happening. You must have recently heard about the Charlie Hebdo newspaper. Charlie Hebdo newspaper is very famously infamous on making sarcasm or making cartoons of Prophet Muhammad and hurting the sentiments of the Muslims in France. They had to face a terror attack in the past. In the recent time, Samuel Paty, so if you see on the screen, Samuel Paty, who was a history teacher, he was assassinated by an 18-year-old boy because he heard that Samuel Paty was teaching students about freedom of speech and expression, teaching students about how to think, how to see, and he was trying to do some social engineering, which was understood wrongly by the students, and the 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 information was leaked out of the school, and parents accused Samuel Paty of hurting the religious sentiments, and this was heard by the student, heard by this youngster who had no relation with the school, and he came from a long way to kill Samuel Paty. Next was the Nice terror attack. After the Samuel Paty incident, France France was under a lot of attack by the countries across the world, especially Turkey, Pakistan, and Malaysia. Turkey has nothing to do currently with the they claim themselves as upholder of Islam, but they want to have dominance and take leadership of the Muslim countries. That is their personal agenda. And Erdogan wants to be a dominant person, an autocrat. President of Turkey is Erdogan. Now, for his personal interest, he is attacking France. Saudi Arabia and the other Muslim countries looked at it in a very mature way, but Turkey has continuously attacked France, and that is why a lot of anger against Turkey by the Muslim world, which led to the Nice terrorist attack, uh, where many people were killed. So this is the context. What is happening in France? We are going to see. We have seen the international context. Let's see what is happening in France. Cite, a project of social cohesion and a key component of citizenship, cannot by itself fix social and political problems. So there is a project in France, Laicite. So I might not be pronouncing the word properly, but you must understand the Cite is a social cohesion project. The recent series of terrorist attacks have come at the worst possible time for France. For months, the country has been struggling with COVID-19 cases. So just remember this concept of laicite. The terrorist attacks have come at a time when there was a recent surge in COVID-19 cases. So the France is having a double whammy. One of the COVID-19, second is laicite. The symbol of Samuel Paty. What happened is assassination of the school teacher Samuel Paty, ambushed and beheaded on October 16, 2020, in a leafy, genteel, distant suburb of Paris. Paty stood accused by his assailant of having violated long-standing Muslim tradition that prohibits representation of Prophet Muhammad. You must be thinking, in such a progressive country, France, which is so developed, how can such uh, thoughts and ideologies survive? Yes, it is happening. The attacker was an 18-year-old Chechen refugee who lived 80 kilometers from the scene of the attack. He had heard on social media that Patty had shown in class some of the cartoons of Prophet Muhammad, which were published by the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo in 2011 and 12. Patty's assassination was designed to shock the French public and produce a reaction across the Muslim world by reigniting a culture war. So, a culture war, to show the culture war, and reaction across the Muslim world was the target. Schools and secularism. Patty was a history and geography teacher in French state school. He was leading a class on free speech. So remember, history and geography teacher, and the role of the teacher is to bring social cohesion, to imbibe in the students love for freedom, love for each other. That is the role of the history teacher and geography teacher. He was doing what every good teacher does, pushing his students to think differently about the world around them. This is how most of the French teachers are. So we can see how an ideal teacher should be, not just giving factual knowledge, but trying to make this world a better place. Since the start of the Third Republic in 1870, teachers have been the forefront of the French state's mission to unify its diverse population. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, state school teachers were responsible for converting young people in rural France away from the heavy hand of Catholic dogma, and they spearheaded efforts to educate and civilize indigenous people. So, what you must understand is the in France, especially, it was the teachers who were educating and civilizing the students. You can say. Just a second. Teachers have been charged with trying to integrate France's myriad ethnic minority community. They are seen and often see themselves as engines of social unity in a notoriously divided country. So the French society is so diverse, and it was the teachers who brought them together. Principles of laicite, often translated as secularism, laicite is better understood as project of social cohesion and a key component of French citizenship. So laicite, which is a program to bring all the people together, is a very good program which French had, and teachers were in the forefront. This can be done in India too. The decolonization. What was the problem in France? What is the problem which is going on in France? The decolonization effect. The decolonization of French colonies in Africa in 1950s and 60s brought the problem of Islam into sharp focus. As the French tried and failed to manage Muslims in unprecedented numbers. Subsequently, France was the site of violence that spilled over from the Algerian Civil War in 1990s. So many Muslims across the Africa came to France, and the wars and the problems in Africa spilled over to France. These people came in France and started fighting here. Around the same time, it also experienced a series of public controversies over wearing of hijab in state schools and other public places. So these are the problems going on in France. France thereafter became a prime target in the new wave of global Islamist violence that took off in the early 2010s. So, how should France respond to the ongoing threat of terrorist attack in the name of Islam? So, such issues, some of them are also faced by various other countries, especially India. How should we respond to it? As an IS officer, you should be thinking in the future how we will be responding. So, compromise or conflict. One way would be to compromise. This would involve acknowledging that laicite alone cannot fix the problem. Another way would be to double down on French values. This is the path the President Emmanuel Macron has chosen. So there are two parts. One is compromise, second is conflict. Conflict does not mean that you fight, but you assert. You say, this is how France is, this is how we are going to live, this is how we are going to follow. Everybody needs to follow this. This is the path of assertion, or you can say conflict. Emmanuel Macron has taken this part, and that is why he is facing backlash, or France is facing backlash from many people across, or many countries across the world. He and his cabinet have spent a lot of time in recent weeks emphasizing the importance of laicite and denouncing all those who are seen to threaten it. But Macron's strategy is a risky one. For a start, it is also almost guaranteed to elicit a hostile response from leaders of Muslim majority countries. More than that, however, the continuous invocation of laicite erodes its meaning. Since the late 19th century, laicite has used to integrate different social and religious minorities into the national community. But recently, it has taken on a more exclusionary and anti Muslim quality in the recent years. So, laicite is used for social cohesion, but how the people are seeing it now as anti Muslim quality. This has made it hard for very people whose job it is to teach these values. Now, it's the role of the teachers or job of the teachers for social cohesion and bring the students together and bring the whole country together. But when you see, or when you talk about the the same thing which the teachers are doing as anti-Muslim or anti any community, then it becomes difficult for the teachers to spread these values. And that is what happened with Samuel Paty. The danger is that this will strip it of its most positive elements, and render it useless as an instrument of social integration. So the whole program will fall apart if such things continue. So we have seen Lasaite. Before that, we saw the role of both were part of the society. We saw marriages in India about love jihad and Lasaite in France. The third uh, editorial that we are going to see is academia and the free will. So relating to the education. India's dismal score on Academic Freedom Index reflects the issues plaguing the country's educational system. So, we are going to see the quality of education in India. Is it good, bad, or what has happened? India announced its national education policy on 29th July this year. So, we had a national education policy in 1986. Now we have it in 2020 on July this year. Making India a global knowledge powerhouse was its idea or goal, with a new system that is aligned with United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 4. Remember, SDG 4 talks about the education. Real problem plaguing the education system in the country and the higher education, the erosion of academic freedom is being discussed by nobody. So one of the real problem is erosion of academic freedom. Focus on more of rote learning rather than research. Students are not being taught to think out of the box, to give more on freedom of speech, like we just saw in the French society. The teachers are pushing the students to think out of the box, discuss, debate. Don't don't limit your thoughts, keeping various constraints in mind. India has scored considerably low in the International Academic Freedom Index with a score of 0.352. So just remember these numbers. Remember about Sustainable Development Goals. Saudi Arabia is 0.278 and Libya is 0.238. So they are more worse than us. But in the last 5 years, the AFI of India has dropped by zero point 0.1 points. Surprisingly, countries like Malaysia, Pakistan, you just see the numbers, they are so high. Brazil, Somalia, and Ukraine have scored better than India. Uruguay and Portugal top the AFI with scores of 0.971 each, followed by Latvia and Germany. So, Uruguay, one of the developing countries in South America, is scoring 0.971 each. So, see the academic freedom they have. Now let's see if national education policy is going to make any change. The AFI and accompanying report quantify the freedom of scholars to discuss politically and culturally controversial topics without fearing for their life, studies, or profession. An aspect where India is failing terribly. So, the Academic Freedom Index says that there should be freedom to the scholars or the teachers or the students to discuss the controversial topics politically or culturally. But we just saw in France what happened when you discuss, is there protection given? The National Education Policy 2020 claims that it is based on principles of creativity and cultural thinking and envisions an education system that is free from political or external interference. Constituting a national research foundation, a merit based and peer reviewed research funding, which will be governed independently of the government by a rotating board of governors consisting of the very best researchers and innovators across fields. So, good thing is National Research Foundation, which is going to be established by National Education Policy. So, just remember this National Research Foundation. It will be having board of governors who will be uh, who will see to it that the minds or the research or the debates are done freely. AFI has cited the Free to Think. This is a report of the Scholars at Risk Academic Freedom Monitoring Project. to suggest that the political tensions in India may have something to do with the declining academic freedom. So, why have our numbers dipped? So, the AFI India report has cited the political tensions. Example: police brutality against students at Jamia Millia University and JNU in Delhi. They are being labeled as anti nationals, has raised concerns about the state of academic freedom. So, our government needs to think, if we want to if you want to make India a destination where students come and study, and if you want to increase the debate and discourse the quality, all these needs to take care of. Rent seeking culture. AFI used 8 components to evaluate the scores. Let's see what components AFI uses, many a times asked in various exams. Freedom to research and tech teach, freedom of academic exchange and dissemination, institutional autonomy, campus integrity, freedom of academic and cultural expression, constitutional protection of academic freedom, international legal commitment to academic freedom under International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and existence of universities. So, these are the things which AFI looks at before giving the numbers. India has not fared well in components like institutional autonomy, campus integrity, freedom of academic and cultural expression, and constitutional protection of academic freedom. So, where you have various bans going on left, right, and center, and you have mobs getting inside universities, so mob lynching happening, etc. So, the numbers will reflect like this. Majority of appointment, especially to the top ranking post like that of vice chancellors, pro vice chancellors, and registrars, have been politicized. Another problem with our educational institutes or universities lead to corrupt practices, including those in licensing and accreditation, thus promoting unhealthy favoritism, nepotism in staff appointment and student admission. This reflects a rent seeking culture within academic community. However, NEP 2020 aims to debureaucratize and the education system by giving governance power to academicians. It also talks about giving autonomy. So I hope you have understood what are the problems faced by our universities, and it will reflect in your essays and GS paper 3. Next is environment ecology. We are going to see divestment in the fossil fuels. What does divestment mean? Taking out the money from the sectors or industry or company is called as divestment. Fossil fuels are creating a situation of global warming, climate change, which is very, very dangerous. And these fossil fuels needs to be curbed and renewable energy should be used. Hitting fossil fuel companies where it hurts. Across the world, the divestment movement is growing at an encouraging pace. One way to undermine activities connected with elite networks of fossil fuel industry is to take aim at their finance. So, if you want to reduce the fossil fuel use, we need to attack the companies which are using it in large scale by attacking its finance. Example: the ultimate collapse of apartheid in South Africa was due to hardship caused by the regime by divestment movement. Systematically attacked equity or investments and loans or credit available to the fossil fuel industry. Saudi's Aramco revenue in 2019 was $111 billion. Royal Dutch Shell's revenue was $23 billion. ExxonMobil was $20 billion. And these are just 3 companies. So just imagine the investment these fossil fuel using companies have. You must take an example from the South Africa. Why that example? South Africa, we were able to stop the apartheid. Apartheid means the the racial discrimination from the blacks and the whites in South Africa. This was going on. However, people able to force South Africa to stop all this? One of the reason was people started taking back their investments. The countries put pressure on South Africa, and that is how it changed. Same thing we can use for fossil fuels also. Arguments for divestment do not apply to India at this time. The reason being, India's contribution to the greenhouse gases is minimal. Even in terms of annual flows, the country's contribution is less than 2 tons of carbon dioxide per capita. So we are very less using less carbon dioxide. The cost of production and storage of renewables are falling precipitously, and we therefore need to be poised to make a just transition away from coal. So the cost of renewable energy is falling. So why aren't we moving towards renewable energy rather than coal and fossil fuels? Challenges involve many sectors and activities, including land restoration. So, what is the reason why we are not going towards renewable energy? That is land restoration, local jobs, timely transfer of storage technologies for renewable resources, apart from dealing with vested and political interest. Activists include Rainforest Action Network, 350.org, Go Fossil Free, People and Planet, protesters, university students and faculty, and committed people have been undertaking systematic organized drives for divestment from fossil fuel companies. So we saw what is the meaning of divestment, how it happened in South Africa, what are the numbers of the big companies, what are the problems why we are not going towards renewable energy, and who are fighting for it. Divestment is the process by which money put into stocks and bonds of certain companies is withdrawn. Remember divestment. The divestment operation targeted large investment funds. These are primarily faith based, philanthropic, educational, pension, insurance, and metropolitan funds. As of 2019, it is estimated that more than $11 trillion in assets has been committed to divestment from fossil fuels. So steps are being taken. Targeting banks that provide loans to fossil fuels, organizations that are part of this movement have been hitting the bullseye quite often. What drew media attention recently was Goldman Sachs announced that it would, among other things, no longer finance oil drilling in Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and also not provide capital for some of the worst kinds of coal mines, such as mountaintop mining. So, give an example, the context why we are discussing divestment today. Because of Goldman Sachs, it is said that they will not invest in such companies. US banks dominate this arena with JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Citi being the world's top fossil fuel financiers. In other parts, Royal Bank of Canada, Barclays in UK, Bank of China, MUFG in Japan all dominate. A total of $975 billion was the bank financing for 100 key oil, gas, and coal companies. Just give these numbers. $197 billion was given by these banks. Climate change poses a risk to the stability of US financial system. Companies going bankrupt, that the disinvestment movement is making it difficult to raise capital. Three members of Rockefeller family have set up Bank FWD, which aims to persuade major banks to phase out financing fossil fuels. So just remember, $975 billion is financed in these fossil fuel companies, and there are people fighting against it. All of these changes are positive steps. Whether these will effectively pull out the planet from the brink is unclear. So that's all for the editorials. Four editorials speaking about society, international relation. We had fossil fuel divestment. And so just remember, the art and science of asking questions is source of all knowledge.